Hello there, Shedmouthshire Hobbits of the railway kind. Welcome back to Shedmouth Junction. Welcome back to the shed. Today we're going to be talking N-gauge. Okay then, yes, so N-gauge. Here we go then, N-gauge. Very exciting it is as well. And I'm very excited to have it in the shed. A few years ago, you may recall me saying that N-gauge was too small, too fiddly, and I can't see it. Well, I kind of didn't think I'd ever have N-gauge in here because of those reasons. However, a wee trip to Getz a couple of years ago, that's a great electric train show for those who don't know, I saw a huge N-gauge layout called James Street, and it was unbelievable. I mean, it's seriously good. And I kind of turned my head a little bit actually to how good it is. And I find that model railways are a bit like an all-you-can-eat buffet, or when you go to a wedding and that sort of stuff, and you get your plate of food, and then you see something that someone else has got, and you think, oh, quite fancy a bit of that. And I found that with model railways. I started off with 00 all the way, and then a few months later, TT was announced, and I thought, oh, I quite like that. And then I saw N-gauge at Getz and thought, oh, I quite like that. I want all the scales, all the gauges, I want it all. Anyway, to cut a long story short, last year I helped my uncle move house, and he's got a cracking little N scale or N gauge. Is it N gauge or N scale, either or? N gauge layout, and it fits lovely in his house, and he's worked really hard on it. And he little DCC number, and it works beautifully. And I had a look at that and thought, yeah, I could kind of get into that a bit. And now I'm in my full flow of N-gauge and TT and 00 all happening in the shed. It's going to be time to start building the baseboards for it. So that's today's job. Okay, going to build some baseboards. Now, before I do that, we're going to look at some things that I have bought. I thought if I buy a bit of N-gauge, then I might actually encourage me to do more about it. And it's worked. Okay, so the first thing, which I'm very excited about, the actual layout itself, whereas my 00 gauge is all steam, or based on steam in a steam era of 1940s, 1950s, I want the N-gauge to be much more up to date. So the first thing I did, because I've got a bit of a thing about this at the moment, about GBRF locos, I managed to pick up a Class 59 GBRF livery, and it looks the absolute bizzo. Really happy with that, and I can't wait to get some track down. Not that I've got it yet, to get that running. And to go with that, I managed to get a load of these Dapol GB rail freight wagons as well. I got 3 pairs of those, second hand. Obviously they were a little bit cheaper than buying brand new. And then I managed to get hold of, I know I said it's the modern era, but everyone knows I'm a sucker for a J94, and they were cheap, very cheap. These are under £60, and I picked up one of them as well. So that's a little taster for myself, just to get me going. Amazed at the level of detail on N-gauge. Amazed actually at how much they've packed into it, especially on the J94. The cab detail for something so incredibly small is very impressive. So yeah, I was more than impressed with the rolling stock and the locos. Incredible, absolutely incredible. But yeah, so it's all going to be mainly diesels, and as yet I haven't got a plan for the layout itself, the actual layout of the track, which I might have to ask you guys for some help for once I've got the baseboards built. The thing is, I'm going to have to mount the baseboards underneath the current baseboards for the 00. It sounds confusing, but bear with me. And I don't know yet how wide I can go. So today we're going to build the baseboards. Okay, we're going to do this properly. The layout itself is going to be a tail chaser around the whole of the shed, just like 00. And I thought about doing an end-to-end, but as I said before, I'm not into sitting here and twiddling knobs and shunting and that sort of stuff. I just want to turn it on and, like they are today, run around in the background, and I can sit back and enjoy them. Is it going to be DCC or analog? I'm sticking with analog for this. I've got nothing against DCC at all. I think it's a brilliant thing. Absolutely brilliant. And I think all the sounds and the lights are all very, very clever and all very, very nice. And if you like it, you like it. And I think that's a wonderful thing. The control's amazing. The slow speed control's amazing. And it's certainly an improvement over standard analog. But I have to be practical and think, what is it going to do in here? What am I going to gain from having DCC layouts in here on the shelf? Do I want slow running? Well, no, I don't, because as you can see, they're going around the track at the moment. I don't run them fast, but I don't run them super slow. I don't do shunting, so I don't need to do any super slow stuff. Do I need sound? No. Sound is something that a lot of people have and love it to pieces, and I appreciate it, and the work goes into it and everything. The sound's getting better all the time, and they look great for a short period of time and everything, but I just don't need it on a loop. You know, it's just overkill. On analog, I can just come out here, turn them on, and let them do their thing. I can sit back and actually just watch them go. And I could literally sit here and watch these things go around all day without anyone talking, just on my own, just sit here and watch them go by. It's nice. It's peaceful. So yeah. So for me, DCC is not a lot of point on the 00 and the N up here on the shelf. With the TT120, however, for operational reasons, I might look at that differently, because that's a bit more of a complicated layout that I've got planned, which I'll show you next time round. And I might need to go DCC or equivalent of maybe. I thought about HM7000, but I don't have anything Apple, you know, phones or tablets to run it off of. I think it runs better on Apple, from what I gather. But I need to look into it more. I haven't really looked at it too much. But anyway, I'm waffling. I am waffling. So let's start off by building some baseboards, and then put them in place, and then we can have a look at how wide the baseboards are, what I've got to play with, and how I'm going to run it around the entire shed. Okay, so let's do that, shall we? Okay, so this is the shelf where we're going to put in the end gauge. Now, currently, it is the runaround loop for the 00. The 00 gauge main bit of scenic area is over the side of the shed, as you've seen before, where the engine shed is and all that sort of stuff. And it comes around here, just two separate lines on this shelf. It's about 6 inches wide, which in new money is about 15.5-ish centimetres. It's funny, isn't it? I never have worked in inches until I started working with wood. I have to remind myself we're now in metric. Well, there we go. Such is life. Yeah, so 6 inches wide on the shelf. Now then, my plan is to have end gauge coming off the bottom of this shelf to about here-ish. And this side will be the scenic side for end gauge. So we'll run around side for 00 and the scenic area for the end gauge. And I think we can get quite a nice long. How long is that actually? Bear with me, let's have a little look, shall we? The actual area itself is going to be around about, in old money, about 7 foot. In new money, a couple of metres. So if I can get maybe, I reckon, about 6 or 7 inches of, which again is about, I don't know, 15 to 18 centimetres in new money, of width out of a shelf. I think we can get end gauge quite comfortably on this side of the shed, somewhere that will split scenic, you know, maybe a TMD in there or something, or some engine sheds and a bit of sidings here and there. Nothing too elaborate, but it'd be more than enough to satisfy my needs and my excitement for end gauge. Now, like I say, it's going to be a tail chaser. So you're going to think to yourself, okay, you're going to get your shelf up here, and then where's it going to go to from there? Well, let me show you. So, move around a little bit, excuse the mess, because we are currently in a work in progress environment. Again, underneath across the door, nice and straightforward. Where it gets more fun though is over here. Okay, so the biggest issue over this side is that 00 is already here, and it's an area I'm working on. And the question is going to be is where on earth or how am I going to run end gauge with 00 as a passing loop? If you remember last time round, I was putting this extension to the shelf on the 00 line, and the reason for this is to run end gauge underneath. So yes, the end gauge will run across from the right hand side, right down the bottom, and then down underneath the extended part of the 00 shelf. So that part's all the scenic part for the 00, and that's just literally going to be maybe a twin line. I think there's enough room there to get 2 lines of end gauge down there side by side, and that bit there become the runaround for the end gauge. Okay, so here we go. This is baseboard number 1. There are some weird shapes on my baseboard, there's no doubt about it. I couldn't just do straightforward rectangles. Reason being is I've had to go around light switches and shelf supports that are currently holding up the 00 gauge shelf. So there's a little bit of engineering involved, plenty of measuring, and the old saying measure twice, cut once definitely comes into play here. Just so you can see, I'm screwing the batten together now. I'm using 19mm by 38mm batten, and I'm using 12mm plywood. And just so that you know, the holes for the screws are being pre-drilled, hence I'm using 2 drills, one with a screw drive piece in and one with a drill bit in. Just because we're drilling so close to the edge, you don't want to go splitting the wood, so pre-drill the holes first before you go putting your screws through. Makes life a little bit easier. And it also, I'm also countersinking the holes down using a slightly bigger drill bit. I know you should really use a tool for the job, but I'm too tight to buy one. But there we go, that is the first baseboard built. It's nice and level, and literally it's kind of screwed up to the previous shelf. And I'll put an extra support in underneath later on. So baseboard number 2, you can see there the switches and the lights have got to go around. So number 2 is a bit more complex, it was. As you can see here, I've got big cutouts, and that was a bit of a challenge to try and work around that for the light switches. But once again, I've measured the baseboard previously, I've cut it all out, and then I've pre-cut all the bits of batten, like a jigsaw puzzle almost, and I'm going to try and line it all up and make it all work. The most tricky part here was this bit you can see right at the bottom of the screen. It's almost like a little chicane of wood. Again, where it has to go around a previous shelf support. A little bit challenging, but I'd just say take your time. Take your time with baseboards. Don't try and rush them. I know it's really kind of exciting and you're desperate to get your track down and get some trains running. But really, if you rush your baseboards, it'll all go wrong. And you'll end up regretting it and having to redo it again later on. Trust me, I did that first time round. If you go back into my video history, my first attempt at making the railway, it didn't last 5 minutes. So yeah, since then I've learned, build them properly first, and you haven't got to do them again, and it'll just last for ages. So take your time, enjoy the build. It's all part of model railways, and it should be something that should be enjoyed. You know, you're doing this for fun and enjoyment, and this is actually, when you get it up on the wall, or depending on how you're putting your layout, you know, you look at your baseboards thinking, yeah, I've done a really nice job with that, and you can sit back and be proud of it, you know, and it's all part of it. Here we have the finished piece. It's quite a long thing, to be fair. So that's both sides done now, and as you can see, I have added a light underneath there. That's straight out of my old aquarium. Very, very handy, nice and bright, as you can see, and it creates a really nice glow across the bench, so I can see what I'm doing with my dodgy eyesight. Right then, so that is it for now. The 2 baseboards on this side of the shed are up and looking really, really cool. I'm really pleased with it. Like I say, it was a day's work. Not solid day's work. It was you know, come in here, do an hour, go off and do something else with Evie. School holidays, like to spend time with her. I wouldn't want to spend my entire day being selfish in the shed. Selfish in the shed. Say that when you're drunk. A lot of S's in there. Selfish in the shed, and miss out on having time with Evie. So yeah, it was a kind of a split day. But if it takes me a day, it takes me a day. If it takes me a week, it takes me a week. It's not a problem. Not a problem. But like I said in the video there, take your time building these things. You'll regret it if you don't. And like I say, it is fun, and it's very rewarding at the end when you can sit back like I'm doing now and thinking, yeah, I'll put that together. And actually, it's created quite a nice little space up here. I can hang some tools down and perhaps put my soldering iron underneath there, like a little workstation, which would be quite smart as well. On the other side, As you can see, these archways that I have created for the end gauge to run underneath the 00 layout, they were created really straightforward. And a huge thank you to young Jeremy, my good friend Jeremy, absolute top banana chap, for lending me his jigsaw. Now what I did with those, it ain't rocket science, guys, it ain't rocket science. I had 2 pieces of this stuff. Yeah, I don't know where I got 2 pieces of that from. It wasn't overly straight, but it was doable. I cut out the best bits, and then basically I turned it from that into all that, and drew some archways on it, and then cut the archways out and turned it into that. So yeah, Bob's your uncle, easy peasy. Again, not a too bad a job. I think for now, Engage, I think we've done enough for Engage today. I think that's without boring you too much. I'm very conscious if I keep you lot here for way too long. Next stop, I'm going to keep going around building the rest of the layout baseboards, and then a couple of questions for you guys. This could be fun. Okay, so let's go on with the fun part, shall we? Before I go, just a quick one for you. Firstly, I'm not quite sure on N-gauge track. As with 00, obviously you've got code this and code that. I know nothing. Okay, so being an N-gauge novice, what would you guys who do Model N suggest as track? If you have any suggestions, pop it in the comments below and I'll take a wee look. Secondly, the layout itself. Now I have got about, to play with, as a layout, 2 meters by 18 centimeters. Nice and long and straight. With, like I say, what I like to have it is 2 tracks going into that, a double line. Okay, doesn't have to be at all. Sometimes, like I say, I think less is more. But if you think, if it could be done, I'd like to have 2 trains running. But it's not essential. Now I am not the master of layouts. I have no idea about track plans and stuff, and I will come up with something for this shelf. But just for a bit of fun, if any of you guys are into your track plans, feel free to drop us an email with any ideas on that could fit within a 2 meter by 18 centimeter shelf layout. Go mad. If you're free one night, I think, do you know what, I'm going to design a layout for Martin over at Shedmouth. Feel free, and I'll have a wee look. And who knows, you might get your idea on my shelf. You know, my email address is. Well, that's a good question. What the hell is my email address? Hang on. I know it's going to do with sheds. Hang on. I'm going to find my email address. Talk amongst yourselves. It is shedmouthjunction@hotmail.com. Okay, if you get any suggestions or ideas, bung them into an old email for us, and I'll have a little peruse. Just bear in mind, it must incorporate this, which you may have seen sneaking in the video, which I hadn't mentioned before, because it magically turned up. I don't know how. I didn't order it. Honest. Just don't tell Mrs. Shedmouth. This arrived by post, and very smart it is too. So long as the layout incorporates that somewhere, it'll be fantastic. If no one responds, no biggie. I shall come up with something, no doubt. But in the meantime, I'm going to love you and leave you. Thank you very much once again for joining me in Shedmouthshire. I've really enjoyed the last couple of videos. I'm very much more like my old self, and I'm feeling kind of energised and all that jazz. But yes, I'm going to love you and leave you. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you on the next one when we talk about TT120. See you later.